Well, welcome, real estate fans, to another episode of Seattle's Real Estate Podcast. I'm Dan Edwards, your host. I'm here to provide you with the inside scoop on living, working, and playing in the greater Seattle area, including the Eastside. It is Wednesday, April 17th. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. Feel free to like and subscribe. And if you're listening to us on our podcasts via Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please do us a favor and review and like our show and share it with your friends. We hope you find this information interesting, entertaining, and informative. We've got a great show today. Our first segment, our Real Talk segment, is going to be about 5 top cities on the east side. Now, I said cities. Last week we did neighborhoods. It's because the area that makes up the east side is actually made up of 5 to 7 actually cities versus Seattle, which is huge. And then we've got, neighborhoods. So just get ready for that. But we're also bringing on Tucker. We're going to have dispel 3 myths in the home buying process. And then we are bringing on Kevin Singleton. He's with Elevate USA, and we're going to be talking about his local charity that is getting started here in the greater Seattle area. So let's get ready for our Real Talk segment, right? Coming up. All right, we are back, and here is our Real Talk segment. Our good friend Tucker is here. Tucker, did you have a good weekend?
I did. Yeah, it was great.
Did you do anything fun?
We took it really easy this weekend. Got some yard work done. The weather kind of was okay. But yeah, it actually took a relaxing weekend.
I really can't even remember what I did.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Well, let's jump in and talk about these 5 cities on the east side. Being that you are considered an east sider, your city didn't make the top 5, but don't worry. That we'll talk about some of the other cities around the area in later podcasts. But I want to just kind of go over the differences. Is one thing that stands out here in these top 5 cities is the median home price. Do you see that? Everything is over $1 million, and Isqua is kind of an anomaly there in the low part of the millions. But one thing that is absolutely certain is the months of inventory. Seattle, when we were looking at the different Seattle neighborhoods, we did see some varying months of inventory, and I also broke it out via condos. But on the east side, I'm tending to just stick to general residential homes, only because Seattle is more known for the density with the condos, whereas the east side is mostly homes, single family homes, although there's a ton of townhomes as well as condos. But for this analysis, I did that. What stands out to you?
The same. What's interesting to me is Kirkland at 1.3. I just would have assumed that's higher. And then the other question I have for you, Dan, is what's leading to Bellevue having the highest months of inventory, given that it's probably the most desirable place? Is it just the price? It's outpricing the.
I think that's kind of an anomaly, the 1.6, but the geographical space that makes up Bellevue is bigger than the other cities. Kirkland might be a close second because you'll see I've got a map representation. Is Kirkland doesn't necessarily always cover parts of Finn Hill and stuff like that. But I mean, geographically, population-wise, the largest city is Bellevue. That's why maybe it shows higher months of inventory, because it's just quote unquote larger city. The other thing that literally jumped out to me is the median home price in Sammamish. 1.8 is the median home price. It's pretty crazy. So you're in the almost $2 million range if you want to buy a house in Sammamish, and and we'll talk a little bit more about how that community is made up. Let's look at Bellevue. So Bellevue, based on population, right? So that's 152,000 people in Bellevue. Median income, and I did median household income. I didn't do median individual income. When you look at these two numbers, they're obviously not always added up, but in the Bellevue case, 140,000 is the median income, which seems kind of low for the house prices in the areas. But again, it's a larger geographic area. So companies, Amazon, Microsoft, PACCAR, Aptio, Expedia, what other companies do you see employing people in Bellevue?
LinkedIn, Salesforce.
Yeah.
Almost all your tech companies have some type of location in Bellevue.
Yep. And then entertainment wise, I mean, it's actually a lot of these entertainment are going to be very similar, but Bellevue has a pretty vibrant downtown area. So there's the BAM Bellevue Arts Museum. There's lots of golf and hiking and biking and parks and water sports because you're on Lake Washington. Some of it fronts Lake Washington, some of it fronts Lake Sammamish. So generally, water sports is kind of a big summer activity on the 3 days of sunshine that we have out here in Seattle. Just kidding.
Today being one of them.
Today being one, yes. I actually, I don't know if you can see my face is a little red. I took my last Zoom call out in the sunshine. So Kirkland, as we move north, and I'm just going to show geographically, the outline, it should actually be bigger because this actually just takes like the city proper, where all of this is considered Kirkland. Same with this up here as it comes up north to Woodinville. But the median income is 135. Google, Inrix is a local company, Gates Ventures, and Facebook are just a few of the companies that employ people in Kirkland. Any others that you can think of?
No, I always think of Costco, but I believe Costco is Isqua.
Costco is Issaquah, yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as entertaining, things to do, outdoors, water sports, golf, hiking, biking, horseback riding, I should add, because it abuts, I didn't put that in here, bridle trails, which is a fairly famous area where it's like these big estates with horse property in the middle of the east side. That's just south of Kirkland, but it's considered part of Bellevue, part of Redmond, and part of Kirkland. So then the next city is Redmond with 76,000 as the population. School districts, Lake Washington, median income is 155,000. So this is cool. Microsoft, right? Original OG Microsoft. Hyperlight. So if we're talking about outdoor water sports, I mean, some with the boogie board and wakeboarding, all of that stuff was Hyperlight product.
Yeah, some consider it like the birthplace of wakeboarding. There's
Yeah.
Arguments on that, but Hyperlight was the first major company in the wakeboard space.
Yeah. Yep. Kayaking, I put that in there because there's a fun little kayaking route. You can rent a kayak and you can go up what's called the Sammamish Slough, and it goes from the northern tip of Lake Sammamish all the way up to it used to be the Red Hook Brewery. Now I think it's just a place. But
yeah, I think it's sold to a winery.
It's sold to a winery, yeah. So that's up on the northern tip. But essentially, I think you can get all the way. I don't think you can get all the way into Lake Washington. But there is a trail that takes you all the way into Lake Washington and into Seattle. So lots of biking and hiking and good stuff. One thing I'll point out about Redmond is the eastern side of Redmond, this Union Hill. You may be able to see that. Redmond Ridge, Ames Lake. That's all unincorporated Redmond. So it's King County. And some of the prices out there are a little different. They're probably a balance of higher and lower. It's kind of weird because in some cases, if it's a nice newer home, the estate, it'll be higher priced. If it's kind of an old home with maybe a single wide or a small rambler, it might be in that 700,000 to 800,000 in that Redmond area. And then Issaquah. So Issaquah is the smallest in population only because a lot of Issaquah is also considered unincorporated King County. So it's kind of it's in a location where we call it the Issaquah Alps. So you have Tiger Mountain over here, you've got Squawk Mountain here, and Cougar Mountain all surround Issaquah. And it kind of funnels a lot of the rain like right down into that downtown basin. So I put Simmons, Costco, Lakeside Industries. There's not as many large employers. There's a lot of people that live in Issaquah that commute into Bellevue and to Seattle. And the median income is 143. The interesting thing is this community of Sammamish. Now, this is where I raised my family for 22 years. The size of the population is 65 because it is geographically a little bit more spread out than Issaquah is allowed to be. Recently, this little notch right here got annexed in. It's called Klahani, and that got annexed into Sammamish. So that's creating the even bigger population. But for companies, man, I couldn't find anybody that said our headquarters is in Sammamish. It's an absolute bedroom. It's a suburb bedroom community. Most people that live there work in, Redmond, Bellevue, Issaquah, Seattle, etc. It's more of almost want to say executive style, because if you look at the median income, you've got two people making, six figures in most cases in that area. And that's why you see those home prices being so high. Quite honestly, it's been built out quite a bit over the last 20 years. There's very little left to build. So school districts, I put Lake Washington, I forgot to put Issaquah. So actually Issaquah School District runs right through the middle and the south. So you've got zip codes 98074 up north. That's Lake Washington School District, and 98075 in the south is Issaquah School District. So there you have it. There you have the top 5 cities on the east side. And in future ones, we'll start breaking out some of the more desirable neighborhoods, and that will kind of open up the areas. I think the East Renton Highlands is one neighborhood that is on the rise. I certainly see home prices coming up in that area, and there's also some land to build in there. So there you have our Real Talk segment. So we're going to take a short commercial break, and when we come back from that break, we're going to dispel a few myths with Tucker's Mortgage Moment. So come back after this short commercial break.